The office clock kept ticking, but my boss's eyes didn't look away once. The fluorescent hum overhead buzzed like a swarm of angry bees, but it was nothing compared to the thunder in my chest. I was 28, fresh off a string of freelance gigs that barely paid rent in this concrete jungle they call New York, and now here I was, pinned under the weight of Jordan Hale's gaze across the conference room table. Our eyes locked during the quarterly pitch, me fumbling through my slides on the new energy drink campaign, words tumbling out like spilled coffee, while the rest of the team blurred into suits and ties. He didn't blink, didn't shift, just stared, those steel-blue eyes cutting through the recycled air, heavy with something unspoken, something that made my skin prickle like the first sip of bourbon on a winter night. The clock on the wall ticked mercilessly. Tick, 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 marking seconds I swore stretched into hours. And in that frozen beat, I knew this wasn't just a look. This was a confession, collision, the kind that could torch everything I'd built in this cutthroat ad agency, where secrets were currency and vulnerability got you fired before lunch. I swallowed hard, the metallic tang of fear coating my tongue, as Jordan leaned back in his leather chair, the creak echoing like a door slamming shut on my escape. He was 35, the golden boy of Hale and Associates, with a jawline that could carve marble and a voice like gravel wrapped in silk. Low, commanding, the kind that made clients sign checks without reading the fine print. We'd danced around this for months. Stolen glances in the elevator, his hand lingering a beat too long on my shoulder during feedback sessions, the faint scent of his sandalwood cologne clinging to my cubicle wall long after he'd passed. But today it cracked open. Right there, with the team droning on about ROI metrics. His lips parted just enough for me to imagine the words he wouldn't say. I see you, Alex. All of you. The meeting dragged on, voices overlapping in a haze. Sarah from accounting crunching numbers, Mike from design sketching logos on his napkin. But I couldn't tear away. My pulse hammered in my ears, a relentless drumbeat syncing with the clock's taunt. Sweat beaded at my temples, not from the overworked AC but from the heat blooming low in my gut, that forbidden pull I'd buried since college, when a fumbling kiss in a frat house bathroom taught me the world's sharp edges. Jordan's foot nudged mine under the table. Accidental? Bullshit. It was deliberate. A spark jumping live wire, sending jolts up my thigh. I jerked back, knocking my pen to the floor. It rolled, clattering like gunfire in the sudden quiet. Heads turned. Jordan's mouth twitched, not quite a smile, but close enough to unravel me. Alex! His voice sliced through, smooth as aged whiskey, laced with that faint southern drawl he hid under Brooklyn polish, remnant of his Atlanta roots, back when he was just Jordan, not the kingpin who'd clawed his way up from intern to creative director. Your thoughts on the tagline? Unleash the beast within. Does it pack the punch? The room waited. I felt exposed, raw, like he'd stripped me bare with those 3 words. My throat tightened, breath catching on the lie I'd rehearsed 1,000 times in my Astoria walk-up, staring at the ceiling fan's lazy spin. Keep it professional. He's your boss. Gay in the office? That's a lawsuit waiting to happen. But his eyes, God, those eyes, held me hostage, daring me to leap. It hits hard. I managed, voice cracking like thin ice. Evokes that raw energy, you know? The kind that wakes you up, makes you feel alive. Alive. The word hung, double-edged, slicing into the tension between us. He nodded slowly, fingers drumming the table. Tap, 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 a rhythm that mirrored my heartbeat. Good. Refine it. Make it personal. Personal. The subtext roared louder than the subway rumble outside the window. The meeting wrapped with handshakes and forced laughs. But as chairs scraped back, Jordan lingered, stacking papers with deliberate slowness. The team filtered out, chatter fading down the hall, leaving us in the echo of emptying space. The clock ticked on, indifferent. I stood to bolt, laptop bag slung over my shoulder like armor, but his hand caught my wrist, firm, warm, calluses from weekend hikes rough against my skin. Wait. One word, gravelly, pulling me back. Up close, his cologne enveloped me, woody and warm, mingling with the faint coffee bitterness on his breath. His thumb brushed my pulse point, deliberate, and I swear the room tilted. You've been dodging me, Alex. In the break room, the copy queue. Why? My mouth went dry, the air thick with the ghost of printer ink and his nearness. I could hear my own breath, shallow and ragged, sinking with the distant honk of taxis 15 floors below. Dodging? Nah, just buried in deadlines. Weak. My eyes flicked to his lips, full and parted, imagining the taste, salt and regret. He stepped closer, the heat of him radiating through his shirt, loosening his tie with a casual tug that screamed confidence. Bullshit. I saw it in the pitch. That fire in you. Don't hide it. His free hand rose, hesitating at my jaw, fingers ghosting the stubble I'd forgotten to shave that morning. The touch was electric, a sigh escaping him, soft, almost pained, as if he'd been holding it in for years. My knees weakened, the world narrowing to the flecks of gray in his irises. The way his chest rose and fell, mirroring my own frantic rhythm. Jordan, came out a whisper, plea and warning tangled. The office door stood ajar, voices murmuring in the bullpen beyond. Any second, someone could walk in. HR's zero-tolerance policy flashed in my mind, the whispers I'd overheard about the last guy who got too close to power. But his gaze didn't waver, intense, stripping away the facade. It's a minefield. A low chuckle rumbled from his throat, vibrating through me. Minefields are where the best stories start, Alex. He leaned in, forehead nearly touching mine, breath mingling hot and sweet. The clock ticked, tick, tick, like a countdown. Then, his lips brushed my temple, featherlight, a promise sealed in silence. I closed my eyes, inhaling him, the world dissolving into that single point of contact. Heart pounding, I pulled back just enough to meet his stare. Dinner? Tonight. My place. No suits. Just us. I nodded, words failing, as he released me. Slow, reluctant. The door swung open then, Mike poking his head in with a stack of proofs. Boss, you good? Jordan straightened, mask slipping seamlessly into place. Charming, untouchable. Yeah, just tying up loose ends. He shot me a glance over Mike's shoulder, loaded with heat, before vanishing into the hall. I slumped against the table, exhaling a shaky breath that fogged the glass of water I'd forgotten. The clock mocked me still, but now it felt like an ally, marking the hours until tonight, until the fall. The rest of the day blurred into a fever dream, emails pinging like distant gunfire, phones buzzing with client demands, the relentless clack of keyboards in the open-plan chaos. But every glance at the clock yanked me back to that room, to the ghost of his touch lingering on my skin like a brand. By 4, my shirt clung damp to my back, not from the faulty vents but from the war raging inside. Desire clashing with dread, the thrill of possibility versus the slam of reality. I come out in college, yeah. Parades in the village, brunches with rainbow flags fluttering like defiant banners. But the corporate grind? That was a different beast. Suits and ties hid more than just bad tattoos. They buried truths deeper than subway tracks. And Jordan? He was the pinnacle. Divorced twice, they said, from picture-perfect wives who posed for holiday cards, his public armor polished to a sheen. Closeted? Maybe. Guarded? Definitely. But that look, it shattered the illusion. Lunch was a solo affair at my desk, a sad turkey wrap from the cart downstairs, the mustard sharp on my tongue, mixing with the bitter aftertaste of what-ifs. I scrolled my phone absent-mindedly, Grindr notifications blinking like temptations I swiped away, Instagram feeds of carefree couples under Brooklyn sunsets twisting the knife. What if tonight was a trap? Power play. No, his eyes didn't lie. They burned, raw and real, echoing the ache I'd nursed since that first interview 6 months back, when he'd shaken my hand and the spark jumped, invisible but undeniable. 5 o'clock hit like a freight train. The office emptied in waves, elevator dings harmonizing with goodbyes, the scent of perfume and aftershave fading into stale air. I lingered, packing slow, heart jackhammering as Jordan's office light spilled golden under his door. A shadow moved, then the knob turned. He emerged, coat slung over one arm, keys jingling like wind chimes in a storm. "Text me your address," he murmured, voice low for my ears only, passing close enough that his sleeve brushed my arm. Deliberate, teasing. "I'll pick you up. 7 sharp." I nodded, mute, watching him stride to the lifts, broad back filling the frame like a movie poster hero. The doors whispered shut, and I was alone with the ticking clock, its hands crawling toward surrender. Astoria welcomed me home with the sizzle of street vendors and the wail of a saxophone busker on the corner. Raw, alive, the city's pulse syncing with my own erratic beat. My apartment was a shoebox on the 3rd floor, walls papered in faded band posters from gigs I'd never afford now. The air thick with the ghosts of takeout containers and unwashed laundry. I stripped the bed, sheets rumpling like my nerves, then showered, hot water cascading over tense muscles, steam fogging the mirror where I traced his name in the condensation, watching it blur and vanish. What the hell was I doing? Dinner with the boss. The man who signed my checks, who could end my career with a memo. But the memory of his thumb on my wrist, the heat in his breath, it drowned the doubts, pulling me under like the East River's current. 6:30. I tugged on jeans that hugged just right, a black Henley that showed the ink of my sleeve tattoo, a compass rose, inked after a breakup that left me adrift. Cologne, citrus, and oak, nothing overpowering. A splash of it, and I was pacing, sneakers scuffing the worn hardwood, the fridge humming its lonely tune. My phone buzzed, his text, "On my way. Can't wait." Simple words, but they ignited something primal. A low groan escaping my lips as I raked hands through damp hair. The buzzer sounded at 7 on the dot, sharp and insistent. I buzzed him up, heart slamming against ribs like a caged animal. Footsteps on the stairs, heavy, purposeful. Then the knock, 3 raps that echoed through me. I opened the door, and there he was, Jordan, no suit, just faded Levi's clinging to his thighs. A gray tee stretched across his chest, hair tousled like he'd run fingers through it a dozen times on the drive. His eyes, those damn eyes, swept over me, darkening with hunger. "Hey!" he said, voice rough, stepping inside without invitation, the door clicking shut behind him like a vault-sealing fate. The space between us crackled, air charged with the scent of rain on his skin. He must have walked from the car, and the faint leather of his jacket. He glanced around, a soft huff of a laugh escaping. "Cozy. Smells like home. Home." The word landed soft, intimate, as he shrugged off the coat, revealing the flex of his biceps. I swallowed, gesturing to the kitchenette. "Wine?" I grabbed a bottle from the bodega. "Cab from Napa, nothing fancy." He nodded, closing the gap in 2 strides, his hand finding my hip, casual but not. "Sounds perfect." Our fingers brushed as I poured, glasses clinking with a chime that vibrated through my bones. We drank standing there, eyes locked over the rims, the tart berry notes bursting on my tongue. Silence stretched, heavy, broken only by the distant rumble of the N train and the soft patter of drizzle starting against the fire escape. "Tell me something real," he murmured finally, setting his glass down, thumb tracing the stem. His free hand cupped my jaw, tilting my face up, thumb brushing my lower lip, gentle, exploratory. My breath hitched, a shiver racing down my spine. "About you, not the pitch guy, the man." The question undid me, vulnerability cracking open like eggshell. I leaned into his touch, the callus on his palm rough against my skin. "Grew up in Philly. Blue-collar dad, Mom, who baked pies for the neighbors, knew I was different by 12. First crush was the lifeguard at the community pool. Watched him from the shallow end, heart pounding harder than the waves. The words spilled, raw, the memory sharp as broken glass. Chlorine sting in my eyes, the sun glinting off tan skin. The ache of secrets too big for a kid's chest. Jordan's gaze softened, thumb stilling. Brave. His voice dropped an octave, laced with his own shadows. He stepped closer, bodies aligning. Chest to chest, heat seeping through fabric. Me? Atlanta boy. Church every Sunday, football Fridays. Dad's golf buddies thought I was the next big thing. Buried it deep. Marriages that fit the script, but hollow as echo chambers. A sigh, ragged, his forehead dropping to mine. Until you, that interview. You walked in all fire and ink and, click, like puzzle pieces slamming home. My hands found his waist, fingers curling into denim, pulling him flush. The world narrowed. The rain's tattoo on the window. The faint creak of floorboards under our weight. His heartbeat thundering against mine. Jordan. It was a groan, needy, as his lips hovered, breath ghosting my mouth. Then he closed the distance, slow, deliberate, a brush that ignited gunpowder. Soft at first, testing, then deepening, tongues tangling in a dance of pent-up storm. He tasted like wine and want, a low moan vibrating from his throat into my mouth, hands roaming. Up my back, fisting my shirt, pulling me impossibly closer. We broke apart gasping, foreheads pressed, breaths mingling in hot bursts. Your place, I whispered, voice wrecked, fingers tracing the line of his collarbone. He nodded, eyes wild. Yeah, now. The kiss reignited, hungrier, as he backed me toward the door, stumbling, laughing breathlessly into each other's mouths. Rain slicked the stairs, but we didn't care. Hands linked. The city blurring past in a haze of streetlights and possibility. His truck idled at the curb, engine rumbling like our pulses, and as we peeled into the night, tires hissing on wet asphalt, wipers slashing rhythm, I realized the clock had stopped ticking. Time bent to us now, fragile and fierce. His loft in Williamsburg was a revelation. Exposed brick walls scarred by time, floor-to-ceiling windows framing the East River's inky shimmer under sodium lamps, the air humming with the low throb of a jazz playlist he'd cued on some vintage turntable. Exposed beams overhead creaked like old bones, and the space smelled of aged wood and fresh basil from the herb pots on the sill, lived in, real, a far cry from the sterile gloss of the office. Jordan flicked on a lamp, amber light pooling soft around us, casting shadows that danced like conspirators. Make yourself at home, he said, voice husky, shedding his jacket onto a leather armchair that sighed under the weight. Home. The word echoed again, warmer now, as I towed off my sneakers by the door, the cool concrete biting my socks. He poured scotch this time, neat, from a crystal decanter that caught the light like captured fire, handing me a glass with fingers that trembled just a touch. We clinked, the liquid burning smooth down my throat, loosening the knots in my chest. To loose ends, he toasted, eyes gleaming, and I laughed, low, genuine, the sound surprising me in the quiet. We sank onto the couch, a massive thing of distressed leather that molded to us like it knew our secrets. His arm draped casual over the backrest, fingers tracing lazy circles on my shoulder through the thin cotton. Conversation flowed easy at first, war stories from bad campaigns, the client who'd demanded exploding billboards, the intern who'd accidentally emailed nudes to the whole team. Laughter bubbled up, easy, his head tipping back to expose the strong line of his throat. Adam's apple bobbing with a chuckle that sent heat pooling low in my belly. But the scotch warmed, and the touches lingered. His knee pressing mine, my hand finding his thigh, thumb stroking denim. Silence fell again, heavier, charged. Rain lashed the pains harder now, a staccato rhythm underscoring the hitch in his breath as he turned to me, cupping my face with both hands, rough palms cradling tender. "Alex," he murmured, "name a prayer," leaning in slow. This kiss was unhurried, exploratory. Lips parting soft, tongues meeting in a glide that tasted of peat smoke and promise. His stubble rasped against my chin, a delicious scrape as hands wandered. Mine up his shirt, palms splaying over the hard planes of his abs, feeling the flecks of muscle under warm skin. His threading through my hair, tugging gentle, angling deeper. A groan escaped him, deep, guttural. As I nipped his lower lip, the sound vibrating straight to my core. We shifted, bodies aligning on the couch, him half over me, weight pressing delicious, solid, grounding. The jazz swelled, saxophone wailing like a lover's lament, drowning the city's growl outside. His mouth trailed fire down my neck. Wet, open kisses that drew shudders from me, teeth grazing collarbone, eliciting a gasp that fogged the air between us. "God, you feel." He trailed off, voice wrecked, hands slipping under my hem to trace ribs, thumbs circling a nipple until it peaked, hard and aching. I arched into him, fingers digging into his back, nails leaving crescent moons through fabric. "Don't stop," I breathed, the plea raw, as his hips rolled. Once, deliberate friction sparking stars behind my eyelids. Clothes came off in a tangle, shirts yanked over heads, belts clinking to the floor like dropped shackles. Skin to skin, he was a revelation. Broad chest dusted with silver-flecked hair, scars faint from some long-ago mishap. A childhood fall, he'd murmur later, fading into the V of his hips. I mapped him with mouth and hands, tongue swirling over a flat nipple, drawing a hiss from his lips. Fingers dipping lower, teasing the waistband of his boxers, feeling him harden, thick and insistent against my palm. He flipped us seamless, pinning me beneath. Eyes dark, pupils blown wide with need. "Slow," he growled, though his body betrayed him, grinding urgent. Kisses turned frantic, breaths panting hot against sweat-slick skin. The couch creaking protest under our rhythm. Rain hammered approval, thunder rumbling distant like applause. When he finally sank into me, slow, inch by agonizing inch, after lube slicked from a drawer and prep that left us both trembling. It was undoing. Stretch and burn melting to bliss, his forehead pressed to mine, groans mingling in the charged air. We moved together, unhurried at first, then building. Hips snapping, skin slapping soft. My name a chant on his lips, his on mine like litany. Climax crashed like the storm outside me first, arching off the cushions with a cry that echoed off bricks. Him following with a guttural roar, burying deep, pulsing hot. We collapsed, tangled and spent, breaths sinking in the afterglow. His weight a blanket I never wanted to shrug. Fingers traced lazy patterns on damp skin. His over my tattoo, mine along his spine, as the rain eased to a whisper. "Stay," he murmured into my hair, voice sleep rough, arm banding tight around my waist. I nodded against his chest, heartbeat lulling me, the loft wrapping us in its hush. For the first time in years, the world felt right. Ticking clock be damned. Morning light pierced the blinds like accusatory fingers, painting stripes across the rumpled sheets. I woke to the scent of coffee brewing, rich, dark roast cutting through the musk of us, and the soft pad of bare feet on hardwood. Jordan stood at the kitchen island, back to me, pouring 2 mugs, his body a study in morning glory. Muscles shifting under skin, boxer briefs riding low on hips marked faintly from last night's grip. He turned, catching my stare, a slow grin spreading, boyish, disarming. "Morning, handsome. Black, right? No sugar bullshit." I sat up, sheet pooling at my waist, rubbing sleep from eyes that still burned with memory. "Yeah, you read minds now." My voice was gravel, throat raw from cries I barely recognized as my own. He chuckled, low and warm, crossing to hand me the mug, steam curling like secrets between us. Our fingers brushed, lingering, and just like that, spark reignited. He perched on the bed's edge, sipping slow, eyes roaming my bare chest with unabashed hunger. Last night, he set the mug down, hand finding my knee, thumb circling bone. Wasn't just scotch talking. It's been building since day one. The admission hung, vulnerable, his gaze dropping to the duvet's folds. Rare crack in the armor. I covered his hand with mine, squeezing. I know. Felt it too. But the office. Jordan, it's a powder keg. One wrong look. And boom. The words tasted bitter. Reality crashing the idol. But he lifted my chin gentle, eyes fierce. Then we play smart. Discreet. No more dodging. His lips quirked, leaning in for a kiss lazy, coffee-flavored. Morning breath be damned. It deepened quick, mugs forgotten until we were horizontal again, sheets twisting around limbs. This round was slower, reverent. Explorations with hands and mouths, laughter bubbling when elbows knocked lamps, sighs melting into moans as he mapped every inch, tongue tracing the compass on my arm, whispering, points true north, before taking me apart with skilled fingers and that wicked mouth. We showered after, steam-thick, water sluicing over joined bodies under the rainfall head. Soap-slick slides, kisses tasting of mint from his toothpaste. Call out. He murmured against my temple, hands roaming possessive. Blame food poisoning. Stay till noon. Tempting. Too tempting. But Monday loomed. The agency a beast waiting to devour. Can't. Pitches do. Regret laced the words. But he nodded, understanding, toweling dry with efficient swipes. Dressed in borrowed sweats that hung loose, I devoured the eggs he'd scrambled. Fluffy, peppered just right, eaten at the island with knees bumping under granite. Conversation turned light. His secret love for dive bar karaoke. My disastrous attempt at pottery class that birthed a lopsided mug still leaking. Laughter echoed, easy. The loft brightening as clouds parted. Sun gilding the river view. But as I shrugged into my shirt, buttoning slow, the weight settled. Tonight, I asked, hopeful, tying laces. His arms banded from behind, chin hooking my shoulder, stubble tickling. Every night, if you'll have me. A kiss to my neck, lingering. Pick you up at 8. That Italian spot in the village, low lights, corner booth. I turned in his hold, stealing one last kiss. Deep ceiling. Deal. The door closed soft behind me. Stairs descending to street level where the city roared awake. Horns blaring, vendors hawking bagels, pigeons scattering underfoot. I walked to the subway, grin stubborn against the chill, Jordan's scent clinging like talisman. The office hit like a slap, fluorescents glaring, printers whirring. The bullpen a hive of caffeinated frenzy. I slipped in late, mumbling about traffic, dropping into my cube with a thud that drew Sarah's arched brow. Rough night, Reed? You look glowy. Heat crept up my neck. Guilty? Thrilled? Just didn't sleep much. Truth, layered. She snorted, tossing a file my way. Well, Hale's on the warpath. Wants revisions yesterday. Speak of the devil. Jordan emerged from his glass-walled lair. Sleeves rolled to elbows. Tie askew like he'd nodded at Hasty. Our eyes met across the floor. Electric, loaded, and he nodded crisp, professional. Alex, my office. Now. The summons carried neutral, but the undercurrent? Lava. I followed, pulse sinking to the carpet's muffled hush, door clicking shut behind us. Blinds half drawn, the space was all sleek lines. Desk piled with mocks, walls lined in awards that gleamed like trophies. He rounded the wood, perching on edge, arms crossed, boss mode engaged. The energy drink tagline, punch it up, make it visceral. Words flowed, professional armor slipping on seamless, but his foot hooked my ankle under the desk, hidden, tugging playful. I faltered mid-sentence, heat flashing. Visceral, like the burn in your veins, the roar in your ears. Exactly. His voice dipped, eyes darkening as he leaned forward, elbows on knees, closing the gap. The door's frosted pane showed shadows passing. Mike, chatting on phone. But here, inches away, his knee pressed mine, deliberate. Like that first rush. Addictive. Subtext screamed. My thigh tingling from pressure. I swallowed, forging on. Then the visuals. Dawn breaking over the skyline. A man solo, empowered, sipping as the city wakes. Our gazes held, the air thickening, his tongue darting to wet lips. Unconscious? Tease? Love it. He stood abrupt, rounding to clap my shoulder, lingering, thumb pressing not in my muscle, needing subtle. Run with it. And Alex, voice low, breath warm on my ear. Wear that black shirt tonight. Looks killer on you. I exhaled shaky as he pulled away, resuming his chair with casual grace. Dismissed. Grin flickered, private, before he dove into emails. I exited dazed, cheeks burning. The hall's chatter a distant roar. Cube reclaimed. I typed furious, words pouring, infused with last night's fire. But every tick of my desk clock yanked me back to him, to the magnetic pull across the floor. Lunch brought torment. Cafeteria lines snaking, the slop of mystery meat and wilted greens turning my stomach. I grabbed a salad, forking greens mechanical, when Jordan slid into the seat opposite. Uninvited, bold. Mind company? Casual, but his knee nudged mine under Formica, staying put. Team milled nearby, Sarah queuing for coffee, Mike buried in his phone. But Jordan leaned in, fork spearing a cherry tomato from my plate, popping it slow, juice bursting on his tongue. Good call on the revisions. You're killing it. Praise wrapped in heat, eyes tracing my mouth. I shifted, fork trembling. Team effort. But it was us raw, unfiltered. He hummed agreement, foot sliding up my calf, subtle, torturous. Dinner still on? I cleared my night. The question hung, loaded, as a coworker passed, waving vague. Jordan waved back seamless, foot retreating innocent. 8. I confirmed, voice steady by miracle. He rose then, tray balanced, but paused, hand brushing mine under table, fingers linking brief, thumb stroking knuckle. Can't wait. Gone. Leaving me wrecked, salad forgotten, pulse thundering in ears. Afternoon dragged, calls droning, screens blurring, but anticipation built like thunderhead. 5 o'clock, I bolted, subway jostling me home through rush hour crush. Bodies pressed, elbows jabbing, the metallic screech of rails underscoring my impatience. Astoria's familiar chaos grounded me. Greasy spoon aromas wafting, kids shrieking on stoops, but inside, nerves jangled. Shower quick, black shirt tugged on. Fitted, sleeves rolled to show ink. Jeans dark, boots polished hasty. His text pinged at 7:55. Outside. Black truck. Heart leaped. I descended, rain-slick steps gleaming under street lamps, spotting him idling at curb. Window down, arm draped casual, grin flashing white. Hop in, cowboy. Southern lilt slipped free, charming. Engine purred as we merged into traffic, wipers slashing rhythmic, city lights streaking past like comet tails. Hand found my thigh midway, warm, possessive, squeezing gentle. Missed you today. Simple, but it cracked me open, fingers covering his, lacing tight. The village spot was dim, tucked alleyway. Candles flickering in red glass holders, accordions wheezing faint from a corner trio. The air rich with garlic and Chianti. Corner booth swallowed us. Vinyl booths creaking as we slid close. Thighs touching, menus ignored. Waiter poured wine ruby dark, and Jordan's foot hooked my ankle under table, anchoring. Talk meandered. His first New York flop, a roach-infested walk-up in Hell's Kitchen. Auditions bombing before Ad World beckoned. My Philly escape, Greyhound ticket clutched like lifeline, chasing dreams that tasted like freedom. Laughter flowed with the Pinot. His head thrown back, throat working, drawing my gaze. My hand on his knee, thumb circling, heat building slow. Pasta arrived steaming, linguine twirled on forks, sauce clinging rich, but eating was secondary, eyes devouring. To us? He toasted midway, glass raised, voice low over the din clink echoed intimate, wine sealing vow. After, strolling cobblestones slick, his arms slung my shoulders, casual to passers-by, but fingers tracing my neck, possessive. Rain misted fine, beating on lashes, and under an awning's shelter, he pulled me close. Kiss sudden, fierce, tasting of marinara and midnight. Your place or mine? Growled against lips, hands fisting my shirt. Mine. I breathed nearer, raw. Taxi hailed. Ride a blur of tangled limbs in backseat. Kisses stolen, driver clearing throat amused. Door barely shut before clothes hit floor. Hallway frantic, my back to wall, his mouth everywhere. Neck, chest, lower, drawing gasps that echoed off peeling paint. Bed claimed us eventual, sheets twisting as we explored unhurried. His weight over me, eyes locked in the lamplight's glow, breaths sinking in rhythm primal. Whispers traded, names gasped like prayers, bodies arching in unison, climax shattering slow, profound. Curled after, his heartbeat under my cheek, I traced his ribs, counting breaths, memorizing. But dawn brought whispers of storm, phone buzzing insistent on nightstand. Jordan stirred, groaning soft, arm tightening. Ignore it. I didn't screen, lighting his face tense. Unknown number, voicemail pinging. Alex Reed? Char. Urgent matter. Report tomorrow, 9 a.m. sharp. Chill slithered down spine. His eyes met mine, darkening. What? Work. Ominous. But he pulled me closer, kiss to forehead fierce. Whatever it is, we face it. Promise, solid. Yet as sleep reclaimed him, doubt gnawed. Clock on wall ticking ominous, foreshadowing cracks. The summons burned through morning traffic like acid, subway delays turning minutes to eternities. My boot tapping frantic on grimy floors, the car's rattle mirroring nerves. HR's office loomed third floor, a beige purgatory of filing cabinets and motivational posters curling at edges. Teamwork makes the dream work, the irony bitter as black coffee sloshing in my go cup. Rebecca Klein waited behind her desk, glasses perched low, lips pursed like she'd sucked lemons. Mr. Reed. Sit. I dropped into the plastic chair, spine rigid, the room's stale air clotting my throat. Recycled memos and desperation's faint tang. What's this about? She slid a folder across. Manila innocuous, but it landed heavy. Anonymous tip. Fraternization. Policy violation. Words detached, clinical, but they detonated. Images printed crude from security cams. Grainy stills of Jordan's hand on my shoulder in the hall, our knees touching under conference table, blurred but damning. My stomach plummeted, ice flooding veins. Who? Confidential. Her gaze sharpened, probing. Care to explain? Lies cued, mentoring. Brainstorming. But truth clawed up, raw. It's personal. Weak but honest. Her sigh was weary, pen tapping staccato, echoing the clock's relentless march. Look, Alex, you're talented, but rules exist for reasons. Power imbalance perceptions could tank morale, invite lawsuits. Pause, eyes softening fraction. Voluntary separation, clean exit. Reference from me. Fired. The word unspoken hung. Guillotine. Nausea roiled, bile rising sharp. And if I fight? Shrug economical. Investigation. Interviews. Jordan 2. Implication clear. Exposure. Fallout. I nodded numb. Folder clutched like grenade. I'll think. Rose mechanical, Hallway blurring as I fled. Bullpen's chatter grating. Eyes boring into back. Cube sanctuary false. Laptop screen mocking with unfinished tags. Phone vibrated. Jordan. Lunch? My office. Irony twisted knife. I ghosted to stairwell. Concrete echoing steps. Emerging to alley's dank hush. Dumpsters reeking rot. Rain puddling oily. Slumped against brick. Wet seeping through shirt. Sobs wrenched free. Ugly. Heaving. The city's indifferent hum swallowing cries. How? Who saw? Paranoia spun. Sarah's glances? Mike's jokes laced barbs? Or deeper? Jordan's exes? Grudge holders sniffing weakness? Text fired blind. HR knows. Pics. Meet now? Sent to him, fingers trembling. Reply instant. Roof. 5 minutes. Airshaft climb. Door creaking to gravel expanse. Skyscrapers looming judgmental. Wind whipping fierce. Carrying Hudson's briny bite. He burst through opposite hatch. Face ashen. Hair wild from rake of hands. Alex? Voice broke. Pulling me into chest. Arms iron bands. Rain started again. Misting cold. But his heat anchored. Cologne faint under fierce sweat. Tell me. Words tumbled. Tips. Stills separation looming. He stiffened. Curse low. Fuck. Echoing off vents. Pulled back. Hands framing face. Thumbs swiping tears I hadn't felt. My fault. Pushed too hard. Too fast. Guilt etched lines deep. Eyes stormy. No. Fierce. Gripping his wrists. Us. Worth it. Kiss desperate, salt-tanged. Wind howling chorus. But reality intruded. Door banging below. Voices muffled. What now? He exhaled ragged. Forehead to mine. Fight. Together. Or, I resign. Start fresh. Radical, his voice steel despite tremor. Shock rippled. You? For me? Kingpin abdicating? Gaze held. Unwavering. For us. Simple, shattering. Rain sheeted harder. Soaking through. But we stood fused, defiant. Drenched. As thunder rolled warning. Choice loomed. Precipice sharp. Leap or shatter. Descent was warpath, stairs clanging under boots, resolve hardening with each step. Bullpen parted unwitting, whispers trailing like smoke. Jordan's office first. Door shut firm, blinds drawn tight. He paced, phone to ear, voice clipped. Legal. Now. Fraternization claim. Bullshit anonymous. Pauses punctuated curses. His free hand raking hair. Knuckles white. I watched from chair. Leg bouncing phantom. The room's clock mocking. Tick. Tick. While skyline mocked beyond glass. Call ended abrupt. They're on it. Demand source proof. He dropped beside me, hand finding mine, squeezing lifeline. But Alex, if it leaks, reputations. Mine's armored, but yours. Collateral. Bitter laugh escaped. Thumb stroking his. Freelance hell again. But without you, worse. His huff was pained, pulling me half onto lap, arms wrapping secure. Won't happen. Kiss to temple, fierce. Plan B, I walk. We walk. Together. Vision sketched quick, small agency, our names on door, no hierarchies, just creation raw. Tempting mirage, but doubt gnawed. And the team? Clients sniffing scandal? Handle it. Confidence laced, but eyes shadowed ghosts of past falls. Atlanta whispers that chased him north. Silence fell, broken by knock. Rebecca, folder in hand, face pinched. Mr. Hale, a word. He rose seamless, mask donning. Come in. She entered hesitant, door clicking ominous. Air thickened, her gaze flicking me. Wary, assessing. The tip, traced to external email. Competitor leak, maybe. Legals digging. Relief flickered, but Jordan's stance stayed coiled. And the response? Stand down. No action yet. Monitor. Pause, eyes softening to me. Discretion advised. For all. She exited, echo lingering. Door locked after, Jordan sagging against it, exhale gusty. Close. Pulled me up, into hold, chest heaving against mine, hearts dueling. Too close. Yeah. Fingers threaded his hair, tugging gentle. But we're still here. Kiss ignited then, relief-fueled, hungry. His hands roaming urgent, bunching shirt, palms hot on skin. Desk cleared swipe, papers fluttering like startled birds, as he lifted me onto edge. Legs wrapping waist, friction sparking urgent. Need you? Growled into neck, teeth grazing pulse. Now. Clothes shed hasty. Belt clinking floor, zipper rasping. His mouth everywhere. Collarbone nipped red, chest lavished wet, drawing moans that fogged windows. I reciprocated fierce. Fingers unbuttoning his slacks, hand wrapping him, thick, velvet hard, stroking slow, eliciting hiss through teeth. Alex, name wrecked, hips bucking. We joined desperate, him sliding home with grown primal, my nails raking back, anchoring. Rhythm built frantic, desk creaking protest, bodies slapping slick, breaths panting harsh over jazz hum from his speaker. Climax tore mutual, me clenching around him, cry muffled in shoulder, him burying deep, pulse flooding hot. Collapse followed, tangled on leather sofa, aftershocks rippling, his fingers tracing spine lazy. Love you, whispered unprompted, voice raw, first time, hanging fragile. Shock stilled me, then warmth bloomed, chest tight. You too, reciprocated soft, ceiling. But idle shattered, phone buzzing insistent, Rebecca's name flashing. Meeting. All hands. Now. Duty called, armor donning hasty. Pants zipped, shirts tucked rumpled. Hand in hand brief, then separate, professional facades cracking at edges. Conference room brim tense. Team fidgeting, whispers hissing like fuses. Jordan entered command, me trailing shadow. People. Voice boomed, quelling. Rumors flying. Let's cut shit. Anonymous BS, competitor sabotage. We're solid. Focus forward. Murmurs eased. Nods reluctant. Sarah's I caught mine. Knowing? Neutral now. Meeting droned. Metrics. Deadlines. But under table his shoe nudged mine. Subtle anchor. Clock ticked on. But eyes met fleeting. Promise in blue depths. Day bled to dusk. Emails flying. But undercurrent thrummed. Us, unbroken. Evening found us fleeing joint. His truck devouring miles to a dive in Queens. Neon buzzing open. Booths scarred with carved initials. Burgers greasy. Beers foaming. Laughter reclaiming space. His knee pressed mine. Fingers linking under table. World fading. Back at his loft, storm spent. We made love slow. Candles guttering. Shadows playing on skin, whispers trading dreams. Beach house eventual, no clocks dictating. Sleep claimed gentle, his breath even on neck, arm heavy, security woven. Yet dawn whispered warning, fight far from won. Weeks blurred into tightrope, office a minefield navigated blind, glances stolen in supply closets, quick kisses, his cologne on my tie. Lunches stretched long at corner delis, knees brushing under checkered cloths. Jordan's hand on my back during pitches, innocent to eyes, electric to touch. Drew no flags, HR's shadow receding like tide. But tension simmered. Mike's jokes edged sharper. Sarah's silence is heavier. Anonymous emails ghost haunting inboxes with vague threats. Walls have eyes. Nights anchored us. His loft sanctuary. Where suits shed for sweats, takeout sprawled on coffee table, Netflix flickering forgotten as bodies entwined. One evening, post-tie, spice lingering on tongues, he pulled a box from closet, dusty, taped. For you, voice tentative handing over. Inside, leather journal, Pages filled script tight, sketches of campaigns unrealized, poems jagged, eyes like harbor lights, pulling me from fog. My throat closed, fingers tracing ink. Jordan. Started after you. Shrug sheepish but eyes vulnerable. Words when pitches failed. Pull into lap, journal discarded, kiss deepening. Slow burn to inferno, his hands mapping reverent, drawing sighs that fogged pains. We crested together, gasps mingling, but afterglow carried weight. The leak, I murmured into damp chest. Closes in. He stiffened fraction. Legals circling. IP thief from rival firm. Jealous hack. Relief partial. But if it blows, then we blow it up first. Defiance sparked, his grin wolfish. Resign letter drafted. Yours too. New venture. Hale Reed creative. You game. Shock, then elation, fire in veins. Hell yes. Sealed with kiss. Plans sketched on napkins. Loft office. Clients poached gentle. Freedom tasted sharp. But universe conspired. Friday pitch, boardroom packed execs in from Chicago, suits starched, eyes predatory. My turn, energy drink redux. Slides clicking smooth. Tagline landing visceral. Awaken the pulse within. Applause rippled. Jordan's nod proud from head table. But as Q&A peaked, email pinged collective. Phones buzzing. Faces paling. Screen behind flickered, hacked, our stills blown massive. Hall touch, knee nudge, timestamp damning. Gasps echoed. Execs murmuring thunder. Jordan rose slow, face granite. Technical glitch. Voice steel, but hand-fisted white-knuckled. Chaos erupted. HR bursting in. Rebecca flushed. Legal on lines, voices tinny. I sat frozen, heart kamikaze. Eyes locking Jordan's. Panic mirrored. Meeting adjourn, he barked. Command quelling storm. Room emptied hasty, whispers venomous trailing. Alone with fallout, door barred, he rounded table furious. Bastards! Punched wall, plaster denting faint. Knuckles blooming red. I pulled him close, hands framing face. Hey, breathe. Thumb swiped lip trembling. His exhale shattered. Forehead to mine, shoulders quaking. Ruined you. Us. Voice wrecked. First crack in Titan. No. Fierce. Kiss bruising, desperate anchor. Liberated. Pulled back. Eyes blazing. We walk. Now. Nod ragged. Resolve forging. Emails fired tandem. Resignations crisp. Bridges minimal burn. HR's call came swift. Accepted. Severance generous. Discretion mutual. Freedom tasted ash sweet. Elevator descent to street feeling rebirth. Air crisp. City sprawling opportunity. His truck waited. Engine humming invitation. To new beginnings. He toasted with travel mug. Pulling into traffic. Loft that night. Boxes unpacked hasty. Our merged lives. Journals beside scripts. Takeout feasts fueling blueprints. Love made deliberate bodies worshipful. Every touch vow. Together. Climax whispered promises. Afterglow planning dawn. Months spun. Hale Reed bloomed gritty. Walk-ups to lofts. Clients flocking authenticity. Scandals faded footnotes. Our story whispered legend. 1-year mark. Rooftop under stars. City twinkling accomplice. He dropped to knee, ring simple silver. Forever? Tears pricked, nod emphatic. Always. Kiss sealed, clocks tick irrelevant. Time ours now, meaningful, unbroken.